Okay, so I was asked to do the BBC today, even though I talked about the major thing for an hour and a half this morning. Um, Zopa Rinpoche passed away this morning in Nepal, and he was one of my very first teachers, a very important person in my growth. Just meeting the Dharma and my growth in the Dharma. And he's been very, very important. I was thinking, is it thousands, hundreds and thousands of people or millions of people? A lot of people. Um, I don't know how many. FPMT, the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition, has centers all over the world. And many people have received teachings from Rinpoche, and he's really influenced people's lives quite a bit. So it's really a very, very big loss for the world and for all of his students, especially. So, what kind of advice can I give? One thing is, it's always a shock when a person dies, because even though we've heard about impermanence, we always think people are going to live forever, especially the people who are important to us. So it's always kind of a surprise. So that's a teaching in and of itself, isn't it? And they said impermanence was one of the Buddha's first teachings when he spoke to his 5 disciples at the Deer Park. And it was his last teaching when he himself passed away. So it's a big reminder to us to use our life in a wise way and not just say, I'll practice mañana en la mañana, tomorrow morning. Yeah, today I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I'll wake up early tomorrow. Yeah, really. So, to see that as a teaching. And then, Rinpoche's, when I look back over the years that I've heard teachings from Rinpoche, at the beginning, it was a lot about the guru and a lot about the evil thought of the 8 worldly concerns. And because I was one of the, early people who came around, and he spoke endlessly about the 8 worldly concerns in those days. And I'm really glad he did, because that forms a very good basis for your Dharma practice. And he never let up. When he got going on the 8 worldly concerns and the disadvantages of samsara, he didn't take a break. Yeah. And it's good. It's good. We have to hear that kind of stuff that shakes us up and makes us go, but I want light, love, and bliss. And my teacher's instead telling me all about my faults and, how I run after objects of desire and get myself into all sorts of messes. And, I'm sitting in the presence of a great guru. Why doesn't he fix me? Well, like if I just sit there long enough, will I soak up his energy and get a blessing? Well, maybe, but we have to do the work ourselves. And I think that's one of the big teachings that comes when our teachers pass away, is our teacher is not that body and not that personality. Yeah, the body, the personality, that particular life, impermanent, comes and goes. Okay, but so if we're relying on something external like that, that's gonna, take us to enlightenment, we haven't really touched the heart of the Buddha's teachings. Yeah, which is one of we create the cause for what we experience, and so the whole doctrine of cause and effect, of karma, um, the evil thought of the 8 worldly concerns that take us away from Dharma practice. So these are incredibly important teachings. And to really see that, like Rinpoche's role was to teach us, and then we have to listen, we have to go back and think about what he said. Yeah, I still have notebooks full they're packed somewhere. This is what I tell other people not to do, uh, is pack away all your notes. But these are from they're 50 years old, 48 years old. So, you have to move a few times and pack your notes away. But, important to really take the teachings and then think about them and apply them in our life. Yeah. So not just listening to them, not just taking notes, not just repeating the main points over and over and over again, but somehow really asking ourselves, how can I practice this? If we check out the teachings, and if they seem like a reasonable path to awakening, then put them into practice. If they don't seem reasonable, if they all seem like a bunch of conspiracy theories, then throw them out. Yeah. But the Buddha Dharma teaches love and compassion and forgiveness and the nature of reality and generosity and, very, precise ethical conduct and, fortitude, many good teachings. There's nothing bad in what our teachers have taught us at all. And so to put those into practice, and that's the big gift that our teachers have given us, not inviting us to have a cup of tea with them, not letting us drive them around in our car, not having a photograph signed by our teacher. Yeah, but the teachings in which we could be sitting there with thousands and thousands of other students. The receiving the teachings isn't something that you have to be the only person there. That's kind of selfish, isn't it? Yeah. And it's a little bit arrogant thinking that I have so much merit that I can make a teacher teach just me. And when you look at it, it takes many people's merits to be able to draw a teacher for a period of time and and really receive the teachings. So to remember that, and that never dies. The physical embodiment of the Buddha Dharma Sangha may pass away, but the teachings that they have given us continue to exist in our mind as long as we protect them in our mind. If we get distracted and throw them out, then But if we really take them to heart, then they're still there and we can always call on them. And so, in addition to the evil thought of the 8 worldly concerns and the defects of samsara, and relying on the spiritual mentor, Rinpoche taught a lot about bodhicitta and a lot about emptiness. Yeah, and again, really, drumming that into us, but not in a harsh way, but just really going into things in depth so that you could meditate while he was giving the teaching. You didn't sit in meditation position, but you listened, and at the same time your mind was processing what he was teaching. And for example, one teaching I remember very much there's a few, I mean, bodhicitta teachings I remember specifically that he gave. And one was when he was talking about the kindness of the mother as a part of seeing all sentient beings as our mother, wanting to repay their kindness, generating love, compassion, the great resolve, and bodhicitta. He went into great detail about the kindness of our mother when we were babies. And he talked about the mothers up in the Solokhumbu area. That's where he himself was born. And of course, up in Solokhumbu, they didn't have baby bottles. They didn't have Gerber's food. They didn't have formula. Yeah. And so you have this little crying, shrieking thing who's hungry. You know, what did the mothers do to feed their children? They put the food in their mouth, they chewed it and made it very, very fine and mixed with their own saliva. Then they took it out of their mouth and put it into the baby's mouth. That's how they fed, their kids for a long time until the kids could eat proper food themselves. And I thought about that, because Rinpoche went into great detail about how they did that and how they would clean the rear ends of the babies after they pooped, and with such love, And he was saying, this is how much sentient beings have been kind to you. And I thought about it, like, wow, my mother didn't have to chew the food and then spit it out and put it in my mouth. But she would have if that's what she had to do, but kind of Dr. Spock was around by those days. Yeah, but now, Dr. Spock's out because you're supposed to breastfeed now. But, really thinking, he taught in such a way so that at that time you had to really imagine in your mind what a mother was doing to keep you alive. Yeah. We had a dog at Kopan named Sasha. I have no idea what kind of dog. It was a mutt, I think, of some sort. And her legs were, I don't know what happened, if she got hit by a car or what, but she dragged herself around on her front two legs. So Rinpoche would talk about Sasha, and Sasha at one point had a litter of puppies. I have no idea how she did this poor dog. I mean, really dragging herself around the monastery. And Rinpoche would talk about, look at how Sasha takes care of her puppies, and feeds them, even though she herself has such difficulty getting food and is crippled and everything. And he would stay on that for a really long time so that you really had, to think about what it was like to be Sasha and how much love she had for her pups, that she would go through all of that to feed them. Yeah. So this way of teaching that he had, it wasn't just, the first point has three categories, and number one, number two, number three, and like that. It's like he would really stay and go into it. And so that's the way we learned in many ways to do what they called the checking meditation, or analytic meditation, where you really take a point and think deeply about it. And Rinpoche and Lama both were very unique in that way, in that they led us in meditations, not just when they were teaching, but actually in meditation sessions. And most teachers don't do that, but they would, guide the meditation, not talking the whole way through, but giving you a point and then, thinking about it, giving another point, and then silence to think about it. And they were quite unique in that way. So that's something I feel very grateful for, because I see with many other teachers, they assume you know how to do checking meditations, and we don't. Yeah. So that was a great kindness. So what I'm getting at is, somebody who's important in your life, when they go, it makes you review, what you've learned from them. And then it also, what you get is very strong and loud and clear, that now, even though, you look at yourself and you say, I don't have even a fraction of those qualities and I can't do very much, but my teacher's not here, so I've got to at least do what I can now. Okay, so it's time to stop being lazy and say, ask Rinpoche, ask Lama, ask Rinpoche, I don't know, da, 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 da. Refer this on to somebody else. Oh, there's a problem. Yeah, go talk to him. And you begin to realize, no, now I've got to grow up, and I've got to somehow start benefiting people, sentient beings, all of them. Even though I can't do nearly what my teacher does, I've got to do something more than what I'm doing right now. And then that, of course, keeps you really connected to your teacher, because what it is that connects you to your teacher isn't that they have a nice personality and you like them, it's the teachings, and their kindness in sharing the teachings with us. And if you think, if I hadn't met the Dharma, where would I be now? And I know I myself would have made a terrible mess of my life and of other people's lives, And then I thought of, because Rinpoche and Lama were my very first teachers, that they left Nepal, they left their own countries where people spoke their own language and they knew the customs, and they came to the West with a bunch of, crazy young Injis who, were half stoned or all stoned most of the time. And then they shared these teachings, and like they didn't have to do that. Yeah, okay, the food's better in the West than in India and Nepal, but they had their own communities and their own lives there. Yeah, and yet they came halfway around the world many, many times to share the Dharma with us. So we've got to at least extend ourselves a little bit now. And if we don't have a lot inside of ourselves to share, then we need to hear more teachings and contemplate them and meditate on them and put them into practice and develop our own practice so that we can, do something for sentient beings, because that is our teacher's primary concern and primary wish.